In this video, we'll see this example or the problem that came in GATE 2019, and with the help of this problem, we'll try to understand influence line diagram in general. So here we'll also talk about the common confusions and doubts that students generally ask related to influence line diagram. So what is an influence line diagram if we say? So we know for a given beam, one thing initially what we learn is to find out the reactions or moment or shear force at any given point. So let's say this beam is there, that is AB. Now on this beam there will be some load. So this is how normally beams will be. There will be some UDL, there will be some point loads. That sort of beam will be there if we talk about any building or any other structure where the loading is static, that is the load is not moving. Now for this condition, if we want to find out the reaction at A, reaction at B, or moment at any point, let's say this point is C, so moment at C, this we can find out with the help of equations of static equilibrium. So what do we do? If we want to find out the reaction at A, we can write the summation of moment about point B is equal to 0. So from that we'll have RA into, if this length of the beam is L, so RA into L minus P times L by 2, assuming it is acting at mid distance, is equal to 0, and from that we calculate the reaction at A. Similarly, we can find out reaction at B or moment at any other point. So in these questions, the load is static. The load is acting at C at all the times. Now when we talk about bridges or other structures, it can be a girder also, gantry girder in case of an industrial shed. So in that case, this load that is acting, it is not static. Like we can understand with the example of a bridge. Let's say this is the bridge, so some vehicle is passing this bridge. So obviously when this vehicle is passing, this load, let's say this is the load, this load is moving over the length of the bridge. This load is not static. This load is initially here. If we replace it with a single point load, then it will be moving at different points. The load is at different locations. Now for this condition, if we say again we have this reaction at A and reaction at B. Now for this condition, when the load is moving, we want to find out how the value of reaction is changing. So again from the static load we can compare. If the load was acting at this point A itself, then the value of reaction will be different. Then let's say if we put it here, removing it from the first place, then the value of the reaction will change. Similarly at C, if this load moves, then the value of reaction will change, and so on. So the value of reaction at A changes when the load moves on this span. So influence line diagram basically gives us the value of this reaction. I mean, it can be any other function, reaction, moment, shear force. So it will give us, for example, the value of this reaction as the load is moving on this span. So the value will be maximum, you can imagine, when the load is acting at this point A itself. So here it will be maximum, and as the load will be going away, this value of the reaction will reduce. So it reduces something like this, and when the load is acting at this point B, then there will be no reaction at A, because the complete force or complete load will be taken by this support B. So this will be the influence line diagram, for example, for reaction at A for this basic beam. So here what is happening, this influence line diagram is telling us as the load is moving on the span, the value of reaction at A. So the ordinate here, this y-axis, gives us the value of reaction. So the reaction will be, if we have drawn to some scale, so for example the reaction will be 1 if a unit load is passing. Let's say this load that is moving on the span is of 1 kilonewton. So this reaction will be 1 when the load is at A then it will be some value less than 1 when the load is somewhere here. Then when it comes at mid span, so this value will become 0.5, and then at the end of the span or at point B, it will become 0. So this ordinate here gives us the value of reaction. This is also the value of the reaction at A. This is also the value of the reaction at A, just that it depends where the load is acting at a particular instance. So if the load is at A itself, then the value of reaction is 1, and if it is at C, that is the mid span, then the value of reaction will be 0.5. So that is the basic idea of an influence line diagram. That is, when we draw an influence line diagram, it gives us the value of, let's say if we are drawing for reaction at B, so it will be in this manner. So it gives us the value of this function. It can be reaction, shear force, or moment. And for which case it gives us the value of this reaction? It gives us the value for various cases. If the load is acting at this point, then the value of reaction is 0 at B. If it is at this point, then the value of reaction is this much, and so on. So that is the basic idea. Now for solving influence line diagram, quickly we use Muller-Breslau principle. You must have heard about it. So we'll try to simplify this principle and understand what does that actually mean. So in a single statement, this principle says the influence line for a function, this function can be reaction, shear force, or moment, is to the same scale as the deflected shape of the beam when the beam is acted on by the function. So here it is saying that, let's say we have this beam again AB. So the influence line diagram for a function. So for a function, this function can be reaction. So let's say for an instance, this function is reaction at A. So the influence line diagram for the reaction at A to the same scale. So the scale will also remain same. It will be same as the deflected shape of the beam when the beam is acted on by the function. So if we apply this reaction on this beam, and based on that, whatever will be the deflected shape, that will give us the influence line diagram. So here, if we are finding for reaction at A, then let's apply RA on this beam. So here normally the support will be there, but when we apply this function, we remove that support, or we remove the capacity to resist that function. So if we remove the support at A and apply RA, so how will this beam deflect? It will become something like this. So this here shows the deflected shape, and this deflected shape is nothing but the ILD for reaction at A. That is the basic meaning of this Muller-Breslau principle. That much you must have already learned. But what are the confusions that come when we are trying to solve the problem? So there are few points that we'll understand with the help of this beam that is given in this problem. So first, let's try to understand the ILD for reaction. That will give you a better clarity about what are the rules that never change when we are drawing an ILD. So for this beam, let's try to draw the ILD for reaction at A. Now, as we did here, first of all, we remove the capacity to resist this reaction. So the support at A we will remove, and then we'll give it a vertical deflection. So in Muller-Breslau principle, we solve it by applying a load of 1 kilonewton. If it is for moment, then we apply a moment of 1 kilonewton meter. If it is for shear force, then in that case also we apply a shear force total of 1 kilonewton. So if we give it the displacement, then the deflected shape will give us the ILD. Now the problem is that what will be this deflected shape? A lot of the students have problem in identifying this deflected shape. So For example, you can say this deflected shape will be something like this. If I remove this support A and apply a load here, so this is how it should look like, that this part of the beam will lift up and this part will also lift up, and this is how the ILD should look like. Now here I'll tell you some rules that are never broken when we are drawing an ILD. So first important rule to remember is that the supports do not lift in any case except the support under consideration. So here what we did, we removed the support A and here we have lifted the beam, but any other support than this support A should not be or will never be lifted. So if you see in this diagram, here somewhere we'll have this support at C. So this support, when we drew this ILD, we have lifted it. This structure or the deflected shape, it is not staying at the support. So we have lifted this support. That's why this is wrong. This does not happen. So support D is in its place itself, so that is fine, but this support C is not in its position, so that's why it cannot happen. So based on that, if we draw, so the support C and D, these two will not lift. Then this is up till B, this is a single member, so it will also not lift, and something like this only it will lift. So that should be the ILD for this reaction at A. Now you can have another confusion that why can it not be something like this? Even though the supports are not lifting, this part can become curved and something like this. We should get the influence line diagram at A. So to remove that confusion, we have another rule, that is, if it is a determinate structure, for a determinate structure, there will be no curved line. There will be no curved lines. So when we are trying to draw this type of ILD, here you can see that this part BC is becoming curved, and that does not happen for a determinate structure. So here, to apply this rule, you should also make sure that the beam that we are talking about is determinate. So here, if you see, we'll be having these three reactions. So reactions are three, and equilibrium equations. So summation of vertical forces equal to 0, summation of moment about any point A, C or D equal to 0, and additional equation due to this hinge, that is a summation of moment about this hinge, will also be equal to 0. So these will be the three reactions. These will be the three equilibrium equations. So the degree of static indeterminacy is 0 here, meaning that the structure is determinate. And for any determinate structure, when we draw the ILD, there will be no curved lines. That you should always keep in mind, that there will be no curved line for a determinate structure. Now using these two rules, if you keep these two things in mind, you can always draw the ILD. Now using this, so this one is wrong because here this curved part is coming. So the only possible ILD here for reaction at A will be in this manner. Similarly, we can draw for reaction at C and D also to give you a better understanding. So we have A, here we have a hinge, B and C and D. Now for reaction at C, if we want to draw, so this C we will remove, the support C we will remove, and here this will lift. So at this point the ILD will be somewhere here. Now what will happen for CD part? So D will remain in its place. D cannot lift because D is a support. So it will join something like this. Now after this, what should happen? So we have a hinge at B. So B can come up because of this hinge. So it will come something like this. And then from here, this point will join from A. So here both the rules are following, that supports are in its place, A and D. Only the support for which we are drawing the ILD is lifted from its place. And the other rule is that there will be no curved line for determinate structure. So that is also being followed here. Similarly, we can draw for reaction at D also. So reaction at D, so at D, this value will become 1 when we are applying a reaction or force of 1 kilonewton. At C, it should stay at the support. So at C, it will be at the support. So here we can join it with a line, and then at B, it is a hinge. So hinge can move linearly. So here this point can come in this manner. Then at A, again, because it is a support, it will stay here. So this will be the ILD for reaction at D. Now another thing that you can understand from this ILD, I've already told, but this will again become a common confusion when we are drawing ILD and trying to solve. Now, when we have drawn this ILD for RA, what does it represent? It represents, in this part it is fine that when the load is acting at A, it will have a value of 1, then it is reducing, and at point B, this value is becoming 0. So it means that if we apply the load anywhere between B and D, at this point, at C, at D, anywhere in this part, if we apply the load, there will be no reaction at A. So this you should keep in mind. Now to verify if you have drawn the ILD correct, what you can do quickly is choose any point in the part BD. Let's say I am choosing some point here, that is at 1 meter from C, and at this point, when the load is acting, a load of 1 kilonewton is acting, find out the reaction at A. For this particular condition, when 1 kilonewton is acting at this point, let's say this point is E, find out the reaction at A. And you will find that this reaction at A will come to be 0, because that's what the ILD means, that from here we are saying that there will be reaction at A only when the load is in this part, only when the load is between A and B, and there will be no reaction when the load is between B and D. So this becomes a good check if you have any doubt in the ILD that you have drawn, that you can apply the load at any point. Here you can apply the load, and then based on that, even at B you could apply, and based on that you can find out the reaction at A to confirm the results. And to avoid confusion, we have to keep in mind these two rules. Now using that, let's solve the problem that came in the exam. So here it says a long uniformly distributed load of 10 kilonewton per meter and a concentrated load of 60 kilonewton are moving together on the beam ABCD shown in the figure. The relative positions of the two loads are not fixed. The maximum shear force caused at the internal hinge B due to the two loads is. So it is saying that there is a UDL of 10 kilonewton per meter. It does not specify the length of this UDL, so it can be of any length, because length of this UDL is not given. And then there is a point load of 60 kilonewton that is also moving, and the relative position of this UDL and this load is not fixed. That is, UDL can be acting on this span AB, and load, this point load can be acting anywhere. It can be here, here, anywhere it can act. That's what it means. Then it is asking for the maximum shear force caused at internal hinge due to the two loads. So at this point B, we have to find out the maximum shear force. So for that, first we'll have to draw the ILD at B. So for drawing the ILD for shear force, we remove the capacity to resist shear force. So that is done by introducing a vertical roller. So we introduce a vertical roller at B, because if this vertical roller is there and if we apply any vertical load, in that case, if we have this vertical roller in place and then we apply a vertical load, then it will simply slide past each other. So there is no shear resistance. So basically we are removing the capacity at this point B to resist any shear force. Now after doing this, after putting a vertical roller, we apply a unit shear force. So this right part will come up according to the positive sign convention, and this left part will go down. So let's try to bring this right part up. It should come something like this, and left part down, so it should come something like this. Now let's see if any of the two rules that we wrote here, if any of these two rules is being broken. So here you can see again quickly that the support C is lifting from its place. And as I told, that supports do not lift from their place. So this cannot come up. Now another possible structure that you can have in your mind is, okay, supports are not lifting, but from here it should come something like this. So in this, what is the problem? This line is becoming curved, and because it is a determinate structure, it will not have any curved lines. So basically what we are left with, this only the left part, because on the left part there is no rule that is being broken. Only with this left part we are left here. So this will be the ILD for shear at B. So this is the ILD in this part. Again, there is no ordinate. That means if the load is acting anywhere on this span, there will be no shear force at B. Now once we know the ILD, rest is very simple. We'll apply the point load at the place where the ordinate is maximum. So at B, the ordinate is maximum. So here we'll apply the point load, and for this whole length, we'll apply the uniformly distributed load. Now because there is no ordinate on the right side, this value of this ordinate here itself will be 1. Otherwise, for a normal case, when we have ILD for shear force something like this, then we have these two values, let's say y1 and y2. Then normally in this case, this y1 plus y2 is equal to 1. But because here there is no ordinate on the right side, this value on the left itself, this y will be equal to 1. Now we just have to write the area of the triangle and multiply it with the intensity of the UDL. So area of the triangle will be half into this base is 2 meter and times height. So here that is 1, and times the intensity of UDL, that is 10, and plus 1 into at this point because this point load we are applying, so that is 60. So this value, it is coming as 60 plus 10, that is 70 kilonewton. And because here it is on the negative side, so these both of them will be having a negative sign. So this value will come as minus 70 kilonewton. So that will be the maximum shear force caused at this internal hinge B, that is minus 70 kilonewton. So I hope I cleared your doubt if you had any problem in solving ILD. Basically, these are the two things that you have to keep in mind when you are drawing an ILD. Now apart from this, you can check out our website, and under the blog you can find out an article about how to draw influence line diagram. So you can read this article quickly for understanding, for a quick overview, and at the end of this article you also have a quiz. A small quiz is there that you can solve and check your understanding of this topic.